Hello, everyone. My name is Katharine Hayhoe, and I am not only a climate scientist, I am one of your science advisors, and I have been so for well over a decade. As you probably know, I am also a professor at Texas Tech University, so Third Coast is my region. And one of the reasons why I think this is the perfect place to be a climate scientist and a climate advocate is because not only does this region experience the greatest impacts of how climate change is supersizing our extreme weather events that we're seeing in increasing numbers every year, but I believe this region has the greatest potential for change. So I absolutely love the title of this conference, Activating Climate Champions for Our Planet and for Our Future. Now, the word activating is really important because so often, I speak to a lot of people about climate change and about how to have conversations about climate change all across the US and around the world. Often we assume the biggest problem we have is that not enough people are worried about climate change. In fact, we often assume that, I and people I know, all the people in CCL and the people I talk to, we're worried. But all those people over there who don't want to have any conversations about it, they're not worried. And if that's the case, then what do we have to do? We have to make them worried, right? So we load up our giant wheelbarrow full of scary facts. And believe me, there are a lot of very true, very scary facts when it comes to climate change. And we dump all of that information on people. And then we're surprised when that doesn't activate them. Why not? It's because that is not actually how the world is. If we look at data, we see that across the United States, most people are worried about climate change. In fact, the latest numbers from the Yale Program on Climate Communication find that 65% or 2/3 of people across the US say that they're worried about climate change. What does that look like here on the Third Coast? Well, as you can see, this is a map from the Yale Program on Climate Communication by county. Any county where less than 50% of people said yes is blue. And the darker blue it is, the more people said no. And any county where at least 50% said yes is orange, and the darker orange it is, the more people said yes. So as you can see, there are a large number of people in our area who are already very worried about climate change. But the Yale program went on and then asked people, are you activated? And that's what the conference is about, right? Are you activated? And out of the 2/3 of people across the whole US who are worried about climate change, what percent do you think said they were activated? 8%. 8. So really, this is the way people look. We have a small group that claims they're not worried, and I would argue actually some of those are just pushing it down so hard they don't want to admit it. Then we have a huge group of people in the middle who are worried but not activated, and then we have this small group over on the side who are activated. So what's the most important thing for us to do if we want to activate people? Do we want to focus on moving the people who say they're not worried into the worried category, or all the people who are worried into the activated category? I know what my answer is. My answer is B. And so if they're already worried, then what's going to move them from worried to activated is not more, totally true, fear-based facts. Because if we don't know what to do, if we're worried about something, we don't know what to do, more worry actually paralyzes us. According to the neuroscience, our brains are actually wired to move forwards to something that is better rather than away from something that is not. So what do we need? We need, and this is the next part of your title, we need a vision of a better future. We have to provide a vision of what a better future looks like, and we have to co-create that vision with people in order to give them something to move forward towards, and that's what activates us. Not just getting away from the bad things that are already happening and will continue to happen until we fix this, but we need something better to move towards. Now, how do we get people to do that? Because then, at this point, people often say to me, well, I would love to do that, but I need to get people to care about nature. How do I get people to care about nature first? And it might not be nature. You can put in anything you want there. You can put in carbon pricing there. You can put in electric cars there. You can put in whatever you want. How do I get people to care about X? X being the reason why you care. Here's the bad news. You can't. Not unless that person is your child and they're still very young, so still have lots of opportunity to try to instill values into them that you share. But if they are not, then no, you can't. Now that's the bad news. Believe me, I have some very good news. The very good news is we don't have to make people care for the same reason we do. Let me give you a couple of practical examples. Imagine if you say everybody has to care about nature first before they support climate action. A survey I just read showed that 45% of people in the United States do not spend time outdoors. So somehow you have to change how half the United States spends their time, and then get them to appreciate the time they spend outside, and then get them to connect the dots between nature and climate, and then get them to care about climate. I mean, that's so many steps I've actually lost track. Isn't it a lot easier if we just find out what they already care about? And then show them how what they already care about is being impacted by climate change, and that makes them the perfect person to care. Like what? Well, let me give you some examples. I was talking with a colleague who worked at NASA, and he studied climate change. He was very worried about it, but he said, I can't talk about it with my friends. And I said, well, who are your friends and what do you enjoy doing with your friends? Obviously, you don't analyze satellite data with your friends, but you must do something. And he said, yes, we cook together. Most of us come from different countries, and we really enjoy learning how to cook each other's food. So I said, well, there you go. I mean, don't you know that climate change is affecting almost every aspect of our food system around the planet? It's affecting bananas, it's affecting coffee, it's affecting crop yields. Climate change is having a profound impact on our food, so that's what you could talk about. So every week I have a newsletter called Talking Climate, and at the top I have the good news of the solutions that are already being implemented to lead us to a better world. Then next I have not so good news that speaks directly to things we care about, like our health or our children or the place where we live or even sports or things that we care about. And then I have something that we can do. So our job, if we want to activate people, our job is not to get them to care for the same reason we do. Our goal is to help them figure out why they already care. And what does that mean? It means we have to do a lot more listening than we do talking. It means we have to actually have our ears open when they're talking, not just sort of going in our head, oh, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say this. No, you actually have to listen to what they're going to say. You have to figure out what is it, and I can guarantee you I've had thousands of these conversations, and in just about all, not all, but just about all, I've been able to identify a reason why they might care. And so be prepared. That's where the work comes in. Be prepared so that when they say something about how they love gardening or they love taking their children to the beach or the price of their insurance for their home went up, or be prepared so that when they say something like that, you are able to make that connection for them and help them see that they're already being affected by climate change, the people, the places, the things they love, and that makes them the perfect person to care too. So the magic formula, in my opinion, for positive, constructive conversations that help to activate people is number one, start from the heart, not the head. Start with what you have in common. Bond over something that you share. And if you genuinely don't share something with them, then maybe you're not the person to have the conversation. That's okay. There's a lot of other people who can. Then connect the dots to why this matters. But then bring in the hands. Talk about what real solutions look like too. And how, yes, this does require change. And yes, of course we're worried. I'm worried. You're worried too. Acting isn't going to take away that worry overnight. Being worried is a normal response to what's happening to this planet. But bottling it all up inside just makes us more anxious. How we deal with that worry and concern is by surrounding ourselves with like-minded people, by focusing on what we love. That is the most powerful motivator for change in the world, is love. And together, activating each other, supporting each other, encouraging each other to build that better world. Because it isn't about saving the planet at the expense of people. It isn't about the environment at the expense of the economy. It is quite literally about saving us. And so that's why I wrote a book called Saving Us. Because we, not just humans, but almost every aspect of nature, we depend on a stable climate, and climate is changing so fast that it is putting every single one of us at risk. And so that means that to care about climate change, you only have to be one thing, and that one thing is simply a human being who lives on planet Earth. And as far as we know, we're all that, right?